Let's see. I'm gonna control P. Oh no. Okay, cool.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Testing. Ooh. Wow. Okay, no testing. Immediate into loudness. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Skepticon. We did it. Another year. Welcome to Skepticon 15. Whose first Skepticon is this? Let's point you out. Hey, welcome, welcome. Great to have you here. Then, because we have new people, I'm going to have to tell you the lore about Skepticon. So back in the day, 16 years ago, I had a student group that I was a part of, and pastors would come to college on the free speech zone, tell us we were going to hell, and so we would counter-protest by getting very loud and dressing like pirates. And eventually, we learned that if you registered as an actual student group, that you would get money to do things, and we were like, sick, free money to do stuff. And so we brought a couple speakers to campus, and it's kind of snowballed out of control ever since. Here we are, still being like skeptic, atheist, dino weirdos, and we're so happy you're with us. Welcome, newbies. Welcome, old friends. So happy you're here. Oh, thank you very much. Alrighty, I do have some housekeeping. We do have lots of policies, so I'm just going to run through them very quickly and try to make them interesting. Rainbow lanyards and these pink tags mean that's an organizer, so if you have a problem, you need to talk to somebody, they have an answer or can find someone who has an answer for you. Also, if someone has a red lanyard, that means that they are not comfortable being photographed or videoed, so please don't have them in your pictures or your selfies or I don't know, whatever shots you're doing. All right, and then communication stickers. We have a communication sticker system where if there's a circle sticker that's blue, that means that person is really into socializing, so definitely talk to them. If they have a yellow triangle sticker, that means they only want to talk to people they know or are familiar with. And if they have a red square sticker, that means they are not wanting to socialize, so please respect those boundaries. And if there's no stickers on the lanyard, feel free to socialize. And that is on our website, and we do have the stickers out on the registration table. So if you want a refresher or you're just wondering where to get the stickers, the registration table is the place to be. All right, bathrooms, very important. So the main hall has the bathrooms that are closest. You'll take a right outside this door. On your right will be something that says Grand Hall, and then there's stairs that go to the front entrance of this giant building. And you'll see a sign that says restrooms to the left. That is where both a family restroom and gendered restrooms are for today. For tomorrow, they will be gender-neutral restrooms, but today we couldn't do that. So tomorrow, gender-neutral. Today, there's a family restroom over there, as well as gendered bathrooms. We are sharing the space with I think it's a carpentry union graduation, which, if you saw the tiny walls that are supposed to divide our heathen ways from theirs, we'll see if that works, Great. All right, let's see what else I got. Oh, yes, we do have a harassment policy. So really, guys, be excellent to each other or else I will find you. So, kidding. That's not a threat, only kind of. So, be nice to one another. We're in a big venue space. We're very excited to be here. We're meeting new people. We're meeting old friends. Let's respect boundaries. Let's ask permission. Consent is really cool. And, yeah, all right. Whew. That's all the policies. I'm going to pretend like I'm not out of breath from that for 2 seconds. Okay, all right. Who's ready to get started? Yes! Thank you for the enthusiasm. I appreciate it. All right. Born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, Nick Speed developed a passion for taking care of the planet, food justice, and working with the youth. In 2014, he began a 3-year stint as an AmeriCorps Vista and state member, and from 2017 to 2020, he was a youth educator for Seed St. Louis. Currently, he is the founder of Ujima and George Washington Carver Farms right here in the city. Please welcome to the stage our first Skepticon speaker this year, Nick Speed.
Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3. Everybody hear me good? Yes. Cool. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Speed. He, him are my pronouns. I am the founder of Ujima and George Washington Carver Farms. And first, want to express gratitude to Lauren and everybody on the Skepticon team, folks who work behind the scenes to make this event happen. And I'm so grateful to each and every one of you all for sharing your time with me today and allowing me the opportunity to share my story. So this evening I'm going to talk a little bit about art, resistance, justice, and healing. So I am the founder of Ujima, the nonprofit, and I'm also head farmer at George Washington Carver Farms. And so I'm not what you would consider a typical artist, but our organizations have been very productive. Since 2018, we've been able to grow over 7,000 pounds of food. We've cleaned up over 10,000 pounds of trash in North City. We are currently active in conservation. We manage native gardens in our community garden space as well as our urban farm. And we also partner with the Nature Conservancy and WashU on conservation projects such as research around wild native plant species. So really grateful for that. We also do composting on site. We also provide education around vermicomposting, which is essentially composting with worms. And so we get hired for educational opportunities around both composting and vermicomposting. And then we also have a youth program which runs during the summer called the Sunflower Institute. We work with youth here in St. Louis, ages 16 to 20. They work with us throughout the summer and learn about agriculture, culinary arts. We provide support around professional development, entrepreneurship, and then we also work with an occupational therapist that supports the teens with their mental health. So really grateful that the work that we do around that. And then we also have our urban farm, George Washington Carver Farms, which is about a half-acre urban farm a couple of blocks away from Fairground Park in North City. So before I get into a little bit of the details on what we do, I feel it was good to give you all context around the spaces in which we occupy. So our urban farm, George Washington Carver Farms, is in Fairground neighborhood. This was once upon a time a thriving neighborhood in St. Louis. There were amphitheaters, there was agro-tourism. They used to race horses once upon a time in Fairground Park. It was a really thriving community. And unfortunately, if you talk about American history long enough, racism is going to pop up. And so in 1949, there was a race riot in Fairground Park, specifically over the segregation of the state-of-the-art pools that had just been installed. And so after that race riot, there has been a huge divestment in this community. Not only has there been school closings, businesses closing, folks moving out of the community, which leads to vacant buildings, vacant lots, et cetera, which leads to the rise of poverty and crime. And so this once thriving community is a fraction of what it once was. And so for us, that really creates a sense of urgency around the work that we do at George Washington Carver Farms. To not just grow food, but also show up and try to restore some magic within this once thriving community. Hyde Park is in a similar situation, so it's just a few miles away from Fairground Park. Hyde Park is where our community garden location is currently. It is actually one of the oldest neighborhoods in St. Louis, the oldest homes in the city of St. Louis are currently in Hyde Park. They also have some really cool historic water towers within the area. Those water towers are one of 5 in the entire world. And so there's a lot of history, a lot of really magical things that happen in these communities. And so for us, we really want to do our part to show up in these communities that have been long forgotten and abandoned. So, resistance. In 2021, unfortunately, St. Louis Public Schools decided to close Clay Elementary. And so in my previous job with St. Louis, I was an outdoor educator. I worked with pre-K through 5th grade, and I also worked with the special education class. Unfortunately, the school was closed due to low test scores as well as low attendance. And so there was this void left in the community. Not only did the school close, there was this beautiful 4-acre community garden that I had been managing that ultimately was left abandoned along with the school. Fortunately, St. Louis University created a deal with St. Louis Public Schools to manage the school building as a community center. And then alongside that, we agreed with the district to continue to occupy that community garden. We have put a lot of effort, a lot of sweat equity into that place, and so we wanted to continue to preserve it for community. And so instead of just allowing that garden space to go to waste, we took charge. We not only were able to manage that space, we turned it into a monthly food donation. So in the beginning of the pandemic, all of the produce that we were growing in that space went to folks in the community, whether it be folks in North County through our mutual aid efforts with a Red Circle, or folks like Solidarity Economy who operate in South St. Louis. We were able to get this produce out to folks who were experiencing food insecurity. And so really grateful that we were taking this opportunity to really invest and support Hyde Park as well as the rest of North St. Louis City. In addition to that, most of the produce today that we grow gets donated to the community, whether directly we have folks in the community coming to our community garden to pick up produce. We deliver produce to families, and then we also support existing mutual aid efforts. So a vast majority of our food gets donated to this day. We still work with partners like City Greens Market as well as Operation Food Search to sell some of that produce, but we will still continue to be a resource and provide access to the folks that really need it. In the middle here is us earlier this summer at the One Africa, One Nation Farmers Market. We were amongst a group of 6 black farmers here in St. Louis that provided produce to this particular pop-up market, which is in O'Fallon Park, and it occurs the first Saturday of every month. And so really grateful to show up in this fashion, to connect with other farmers who are advocates of food justice like we are. We also, within the Sunflower Institute, we pay our teens $20 an hour. We are really adamant about investing in our young people and paying them a decent wage, one that they can support themselves and their families with. Now, this is just a part-time job, but we think doing this type of investment, making sure that they have transportation so they can come to work consistently, are all things that we want to provide given the circumstances that our teens are dealing with. Justice. It is a big part of what we do, whether we're talking food justice or environmental justice. Food access, talked about that before, really, really important, making sure that we're getting it out to the families in need. Obviously, it costs money to run a business, so we do what we can to offset some of those costs, but we're making sure that we're showing up specifically for North St. Louis City, an area that has been devastated by food apartheid. We also are grateful to partner with folks like Earth Day 365. We host quarterly cleanup events. We're actually hosting one later this month on August 19th. And so we're really doing our part to combat the illegal dumping that exists, specifically in Fairground neighborhood. When you have areas with large vacant lots and vacant properties, oftentimes those areas become dumping grounds for all types of toxic chemicals, debris from rehabbing homes, et cetera. And so it is creating devastating effects for the folks who are living in these communities. It's also affecting the ecosystem within these communities. When you have large concentrations of trash and chemicals that are sitting in these communities, often unchecked. And so we would never see something like this in Clayton or Ladue. And so why should the folks living in these communities have to live in these conditions? And so we really want to do our part to not just clean up the trash, but also how can we pull in local leaders to help curb some of these systemic issues in a way that doesn't include more surveillance, and do it in an equitable way that supports the community. In addition to that, with growing food, there's also education that comes naturally through that. So we grow several different varieties of things like tomatoes, arugula, spinach, sweet potatoes, things like that. And then we also grow some of your lesser known things like Swiss chard. We also grow medicinal things like calendula. We also grow herbs like sorrel. And so while we're growing these things, it's an opportunity to educate the community around those things, the nutritional value around these things. And so this is an opportunity for us to build community as well, not just providing access to this food, but creating educational opportunities around that. And then even taking a step further, providing support so people can grow in their own homes. You don't need 4 acres like we have access to. You can grow literally with some 5-gallon buckets in your apartment building. And so we really want to increase access, not just with the food that we grow, but also providing the community with the resources and the knowledge that they need to grow themselves. That is a really important part to us when it comes to justice. Healing. So this is a really major component of what we do as well. I mentioned our youth program, the Sunflower Institute. This year we have 18s ages 16 to 20, and then we also have 3 interns from WashU joining and supporting along. Really grateful for their support, and we were able to do bigger and better things this year with our program. So we were able to go camping. Last weekend, we went to Mill Creek Preserve, which is about 2.5 hours south in Van Buren, Missouri. We got a chance to camp out on one of the Nature Conservancy sites. We were able to go on a float trip. We went on a 4-mile float on the Current River. We also got a chance to do some exploring in Van Buren. We got a chance to see Big Spring, which is a national, what's the word I'm looking for? A national site that is preserved actively. It's one of the largest springs within the country, and it's right here in Missouri. And so doing experiences like this, last week we went to the Onondaga Cave and got a chance to tour that. And the top left is the lily pad room within that cave. We also got a chance to do hikes to the Missouri River. And we got to show them that the Missouri River is one of the longest rivers in the nation. And so there are really incredible, gorgeous green spaces right here in the state of Missouri. The reality is black folks typically don't have access to these spaces. And so by doing our part to get the resources needed to make trips like this creates once-in-a-lifetime opportunities for these teens who wouldn't normally have access to experiences like this. We often find that nature can be really healing. We are going through unprecedented times in terms of stress and mental health issues. And so we really want to show up for these teens in a holistic way. Yes, we need their support at our urban farm and our community garden, but we also want to support them. We understand that they are struggling with many things. And so by providing these pockets to actually do nothing and to immerse yourself in nature, I think is a really powerful experience. And so the fact that we can do that on a large scale with these teens has been really, really amazing and something that I'm really grateful for. So, as I mentioned earlier, I am very much a unconventional artist. I am not much of a drawer. I don't paint much, and I am not a website developer. But I do have an opportunity to do art on an everyday basis. The earth is my canvas, and I am so fortunate to be surrounded around people who inspire me each and every day. And so the fact that I get to work with some really incredible individuals and do this really important work is something that I do not take for granted, and something that wakes me up every single day. And so to tie this all together, our vision, and when I say our, Ujima's vision is for North St. Louis, that it will be a thriving community with access to quality food, sustainable agriculture, green infrastructure, housing, education, and employment. And so the reality is these are really important keys to having a thriving community. No matter what culture you're talking about, no matter what group of people you deal with, if you give folks access to these things, you will have a thriving community, period. And so investing in these things, not just in our West counties and our Ladus, but investing in the often forgotten areas like North St. Louis City as well as North St. Louis County. And so, again, super grateful for the space that we're in and also grateful for what we have planned for the future. So here's a screenshot of a Google Maps area view of our property. So the property that you see that's outlined in white, that is all property that we currently own. So we purchased a house and 5 lots in November of 2021 to start George Washington Carver Farms. And so we're still in that first phase of development, but we are surrounded by vacant properties. So everything that you see in the orange or red are vacant properties that either have been privately owned and abandoned or properties that are owned by the city of St. Louis. And so not only are we thinking about building our current farm site, we're also looking to acquire additional land to build out the urban farm as well as continue on our goals of community development. So I want to be very, very clear. I am grateful to stand on the shoulders of my ancestors, to walk in solidarity with the people in St. Louis, to be inspired by the people across the country that are doing this very important work. None of what we do is possible without these folks and the amazing work that they have done and continue to do. So really just quickly want to give homage to our name. So Ujima, for you all who don't know, is a Swahili word that means collective work and responsibility. It is one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And for us, thinking about the things that we want to solve, whether it be food justice, environmental justice, equitable housing, youth empowerment, all of those things can only be accomplished by a collective. As much as I wish that I can accomplish everything by myself, I can't. I need a group of individuals who are just as passionate as I am and who are invested in doing this work. And so everything that we do, everything that we are a part of is made possible by this collective of passionate individuals who are excited about doing this work. We also have 5 Global Farms. Shout out to Mitch Pearson. He is what I would consider a modern day George Washington Carver. He currently has a 7-acre farm in Spanish Lake called 5 Global Farms. He is an artist. He's an incredible painter. He's been an educator for decades, in addition to being a farmer for over 40 years. And so he is an individual who provides inspiration to me on a daily basis, someone who we've collaborated with. We're actually going to be camping out on his property later next month with our teens. So super grateful for Mitch and the work that he does. Growing food, growing people. Shout out to Leah Burnett. She is an incredible community partner that we work with. All of our seedlings are helped grown by Leah. She has a farm site in North City as well as at Confluence in North County. And so we are fortunate enough to get seedlings as well as seeds from Leah that help our community garden as well as our farm site. In the right corner here is Leah Penniman. She is the founder of Soulfire Farm, which is in New York. She's also the author of the book Farming While Black. This book played a really significant role in my life and one of the reasons why I pursued a career in urban farming. And so grateful for Leah and the work that she does on the East Coast. And a lot of the work that's done in Soulfire Farm inspires the work that we do here in St. Louis. We also have George Washington Carver Farm. George Washington Carver, who the farm is inspired by. He is an incredible human being. I think very underrated in terms of his impact on humanity. He's so much bigger than the sweet potato and the peanut guy. He really did a tremendous part in creating opportunities for black farmers in the South. During those times, there weren't a lot of opportunities of employment for black folks. And so by creating systems for folks to farm sustainably, different types of crops for folks to grow, in addition to companion planting to help regenerate the soil, as well as planting pollinators to improve the ecosystem. All of those things, I think I lost my presentation. But all of those things were really passionate things that he was about, things that really were a part of his legacy. And so we continue to do our part to honor George Washington Carver, not just through the food that we grow, but through the education and the well as the commitment to nature. Some other individuals that were included on there, we have Optimistic Theory. The founder, Dr. Brittany Connors, is an occupational therapist who works with our staff as well as our teens. So grateful for the work that Dr. Brittany Connors provides for us. She is a huge resource. As I mentioned earlier, our teens are dealing with a tremendous amount of mental health issues, from anxiety to depression. And so to have a licensed professional on staff who can support our teens on an individual as well as a group basis, I think is really, really important. I think we have really underestimated the impact that the pandemic has had on our young people. And so we really are intentional about providing support to them. Yes, we make sure that they get transportation to work. Yes, we pay them $20 an hour. But we also want to make sure, are they okay? Or do they have the resources that they need to support themselves, to support them families? Because that for us is the key, for them to see worth in themselves and in their families, and for us to equip them with the resources that they need to thrive in their next chapter. whatever that looks like, whether that's finishing high school, whether that's going to trade school, whether that's community college, whether enrolling in a university. We want to support them and whatever their dreams and ambitions are to the best of our ability. Luckily, I got this on my phone, so we good. So we are in the midst. Okay, we got something. I don't think, let's see. It won't let me move it. It's all good. Yeah, we can keep it rolling. So phase one, we are currently, our goal is $250,000. We currently raised about 125 of that so far, and we have been able to do some upgrades to our office. We've also been able to do some demolition work on our property, get rid of some broken concrete. We also were able to do some grading on our lots. We also built a few raised beds, and then we also have an herb spiral that was sponsored by Lincoln University. And then with the help of BioSTL, we were able to build out our native garden on site. So we do have some activity on our urban farm site. Luckily, we have our community garden space, which is more than enough space, and I've been managing that since 2017. So we've been grateful to have this space to provide the access to the community while we continue to build upon our urban farm site. So again, really grateful for the work that we've done so far, but also excited for the future for us. One of the biggest things that I'm looking forward to is Victory and Peace Park. So on the south side of our property, we have 3 lots that we will dedicate towards community space. So we will have a orchard, we'll have a fish pond, a greenhouse. We'll also have some sculptures on site for these will be commissioned by local artists within the community. And then we also will have Playscape for young people to have a good time, explore within nature on our property, in addition to producing for agriculture. And so what's next after that? We are really being strategic about who we bring on the team. We are looking to add board members to help continue the work that we're doing. We're also working with incredible consultants like KKA Consultant that are working with us to make sure that we're doing things within an equitable lens, making sure that we support all marginalized communities, making sure that we are incorporating all voices in the table, even the voices that are not necessarily represented within our leadership group. So we really want to be intentional about not just the work that we're doing currently, but as we continue to expand, making sure we're being inclusive, making sure that we are showing up for our marginalized brothers and sisters and siblings. Also, housing. So we have this land we're currently looking to expand. We are looking at how can we create additional opportunities for housing. So we understand the issue of homelessness that exists within St. Louis. We understand that a lot of the housing that exists isn't necessarily affordable, especially for marginalized populations. And so as we're acquiring these new properties, how can we rehab some of these homes? How can we build new homes for not just future employees, but also folks within the community? Making sure that we're showing up. We are doing our part in community development, not just the development of our nonprofit and our urban farm. We're also looking to expand into value-added products. So really excited about that. We are working with a chef and we have tested multiple salsa recipes. And so once we get that project up and running, hopefully later this year to next year, we can start creating products with the produce that we're growing currently in our spaces. And so really excited for those because I don't want to stop at salsa. I want to look at hot sauce and ketchup and barbecue sauce and other ways to incorporate the things that we are growing to raise awareness and to also just provide fresh access to products that are not sitting on a truck and coming from California or New York or wherever it may be, utilizing the rich and vibrant soil that we have right here in St. Louis. So really excited for the future and the trajectory of our organization and the work that we do. I'm sure you all are probably thinking, this is a lot of information. How can I get involved? I'm glad you asked. Multiple ways in which you all can tap into the work that we're doing. We're nonprofit, so donations go a long way. The most sustainable way to support us is through monthly donations, whether it's $10 or $15, that goes a long way in terms of covering operational costs, as well as programming support and the work that we do with young people. Obviously, we accept one-time donations. All of those things are really significant for the work that we do. We also have volunteer opportunities. On Saturdays, we have volunteer shifts at our community garden. We also have cleanup days, like I mentioned earlier. The next one is on August the 19th at 9 a.m. at our farm. We also have other opportunities throughout the year that you all can tap into. We also have special events. We have a happy hour coming up on August 24th in honor of my 35th birthday. We are going to celebrate the work that we've done this year, as well as have a good time as well. We also have events that will be coming up that we'll post on social media as well as our website. You're always welcome to come out for a tour. You also can hire us for educational workshops. We've done things on agriculture, exposing young people to nature, to composting, vermicomposting, to starting your own community garden. And so we have done a number of different workshops that are surrounded around education for the community. And then we also have merch. So we have t-shirts, we have hoodies, bucket hats. Later this month, we'll have some tank top t-shirts as well as onesies for the babies. So we'll have all of that information on our website. More than welcome to support and donate, buy merch. All of the proceeds will go towards the first phase of development of George Washington Carver Farms and to support our nonprofit Ujima. I've talked a lot. I will be around if any of you all have questions later on. I have cards as well if you want to get more involved. But again, I just want to thank you all so much for taking time to listen to me, to Lauren and the team. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay, I appreciate it.
The shirt is a large. Is that?
Oh, yeah, it's totally fine. Yeah.
I was just guessing.
Yeah. No, large works.
Take the mic off.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Because they're still translating what you're saying.
Oh.
We have live captions. So. Yeah. Hello.
Doing? Yes? I'll just keep talking. I'll start explaining. I'll just name the stomachs of a cow. Rumen, reticulum, omasum, abomasum. Chickens have a proventriculus instead of a stomach. Okay. Are all of your mics working? Do we know that?
Cello.
Tonight we have for you a panel which has a clever title about marketing when you are an artist, which I cannot remember the title off the top of my head. So hopefully you all know what you're in for and are very excited about it. I am your host tonight. My name is Del on Earth. I am around. You know me from being around mostly. Nothing interesting or exciting to speak of. My pronouns are they, them. And I am thrilled to be here at my second Skepticon. Next up, I'm just going to have our panelists, if you could introduce yourself and just give me a very brief, and it may be challenging, a very brief description of what kind of art you do.
Hi, I'm Amanda, and I draw things, and my pronouns are they, them as well.
My name is Kelly. I touch all things related to sheep and yarn, and I also use they, them pronouns.
Josiah, I take pictures and I use he, they.
Wonderful. So first question tonight, I would like to know, how do each of you choose what platform or venues you will use to showcase your art, whether you're selling your art, we're talking about online platforms, in-person venues. If you could tell me a little bit about platforms you've tried, maybe platforms you've tried and haven't worked. Thoughts about that? We can start with Amanda.
Yeah, so I mostly sell art on like the side, so I don't have a lot of time for like my own marketing. I tend to just rely mostly on Etsy and a few direct to print stores like TeePublic and Redbubble. They're the two main ones, and they're basically the biggest sites that do all of the like marketing for you, basically, especially SEO stuff. And yeah, I've tried smaller sites. They just don't have the reach that the larger platforms do, unfortunately.
And for the technologically challenged among us, what does SEO stand for?
All right, I'm sorry. Search engine optimization.
Awesome, thank you.
So prior to doing the yarn thing full time, I was an organizer for years, but before that I also did communications. So I have tried pretty much every platform out there except for like the new ones, because I am at this point getting too old to try them. I simply do not. I have done most of my marketing and growth on Instagram, although at the beginning I was very quickly very viral on Facebook, because Ohio memes go far for people who are slightly older than I am, in a good way. And then I found a lot of success specifically with TikTok with process videos. Like, people really enjoy me doing videos of dyeing yarn while telling the story of the yarn, because most of what I've found is like storytelling is what sells things. Colors can only get you so far, but Facebook, I think, is dead for selling things at this point. Instagram is mid. And TikTok is where I've found the most growth, especially for like subscribers, because I have a monthly subscription club, which I wasn't really anticipating, since I feel like TikTok skews younger, and yarn is typically for people with like disposable income.
Her TikTok is really cool. It is. I've follow it and retweet it.
You can find me at Die Mad About It.
It's really fantastic. Okay, So I don't sell a product so much as a service, which is a little bit of a different angle because I work as a photographer in the activism spaces here. And mostly I got started, so it's not really like platform based. I've tried platform based, and I suck at it. So, I tried to be consistent with it, and I tried to keep doing it for a while, but how I got started doing photography in atheist and humanist and various justice spaces was just by showing up and taking pictures. And then offering them to either the organizers or sometimes I would, oh, maybe this is kind of platform-based, because sometimes I would just put out like huge albums on Facebook, and that doesn't work as well for Facebook anymore, like just the way that the algorithms have tweaked over the years. It just doesn't work as well. So I don't do it as much, except sometimes then I will be requested to put them out so that a group can share it in their Facebook group or whatever. So I'll go ahead and do that. I do that like with the North Idaho Women's March and stuff because that's all they really want me to do. They're not going to take my photos and use them for promotional services or anything. But I got started doing that, and then eventually with some encouragement and a little bit of guidance from other people, then actually started to pitch myself to organizations to go take pictures there, and then it's just been kind of going steady from there.
Awesome. Yeah. So, Kelly, you brought up one of the other questions that I had written down, and so did you a little bit, Josiah. How have the algorithms, I think algorithms rule all of our lives now, whether or not we realize it. Have you had to keep up with the changes in the algorithms? How have the algorithms impacted the way you get reach for your work?
I have no idea. I don't pay attention to them. I don't care. I'm going to put the content out regardless. And I think that's kind of... TikTok seems to want you to post every day, but when you do post every day, you don't get as much of a reach, except for like one video, one time. And so I found sort of that if I post like a day or two before I want to post something that I want to go a little further, like that helps. So if like you're like, oh, I haven't used TikTok in months, I'm gonna do a one-off video of me unraveling a sweater, and then 3 days later I will post like my club color of the month, which I want people to actually see. Like that's the weird thing I've like sort of figured out, but like otherwise, I don't care. I don't keep track of like what time's the best time to post. Like what day of the week. Like I used to keep track of those metrics when like it was my job as a communications professional to do so, but now I'm like, I'm gonna make it anyway.
There's a weird way that really works. Like where you know that the algorithms exist and you kind of try and work within it, but you're also just kind of like, fuck it.
It's like being cool. The secret to being cool is not trying to be cool, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, also, I have, especially, I've been making art and posting it online for 10-ish years now. Like, I've had my Etsy store for 10 years and been active on it for, like, 5. And if there is a trick to it, I don't know. They give you tools to, like, see what, like, people are searching for, but there are probably ways to care about it, but I don't. I just use descriptors in the hashtags that they provide.
Etsy also seems like increasingly hostile to artists anyway.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's genuinely like, unfortunately, like, if you don't have the ability to like do the marketing yourself, it really is the place, unfortunately. So
this is also kind of a class on marketing from a bunch of people who really fucking hate capitalism.
our advice seems to be so far, don't.
Okay, so along those lines.
Because I would say, like, I actually have more success, like, wearing, like, the stuff that I make and people commenting on it, complimenting it. Like, I do make, like, I put my designs on T-shirts. Like, I make art that I like, and then I put it on things that I like to wear, and I walk around in it. And people compliment it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I make art. And also my partner's really good about it, marketing for me. Get get you someone who'll do that for you. But yeah, just like talking to people about art and like them liking the things I make.
Yeah, I think the largest part to me, as far as like marketing goes, is like don't be like siloed. Like I'm not just making yarn. I am also like locally involved with like my local bike community and had years of organizing experience with like Ohio Repro. Like I am just a dumbass with the yarn business, but I'm not just a dumbass with the yarn business. I have all of these friends who have no interest in working with yarn, but like everybody knows somebody who knits or crochets, and they're like, oh my God, do you know my friend Kelly? And they're like, no, but you will.
Yeah, so that is, I guess, another common theme is that in one way or another, I think we've all used word of mouth is the capitalism way of putting it, but it's our community. And we do make bonds. We spend time with these people. They are our friends. So yeah, it is, and art makes community in really kind of cool, bizarre ways.
So along those lines, we do unfortunately have to have money to eat in capitalism. We're stuck here for the moment. I know, very upsetting, boo. How do you set a price on your art? Has that been a struggle for any of you?
Kind of. It's hard for me to actually want to sell my art because it's such a personal thing for me that I'm like, money, eh. But what I typically do now is I kind of look at what other people are selling their stuff for, and I kind of price around that, which runs in problems of like, there are like farming, like even on Etsy, unfortunately, there are like larger like firms that like pretend they're handmade and they push a lot of like bulk side of stuff. Like they can create things in bulk and keep their margins down. So I try to price around that because that's what people expect to pay for things. But if I'm interested in like making something and I look around and see that like, oh, this is how much these sorts of things are selling for, but if I were to sell at that price, it's not worth my time, I just don't do it. Like I had a real passion for like physically print screening my own t-shirts, but nah. It's a lot of effort. And the way that t-shirts are priced, it's not really worth the money, but technology has caught up a little bit. Like direct to print garment making, like garment printing has come a long way. It's pretty good quality and it's really low effort.
Awesome.
My pricing is pretty standard to the industry. Like either like indie dyeing is a pretty saturated market, so it's pretty easy to compare prices in that regard. But I do hate doing wholesale. That sucks.
My pricing, yes, I did have a lot of trouble coming up with pricing schemes, and it's still pretty fuzzy and porous. One of the first times that I got paid for doing a gig in the atheist and humanist community was because Nick Fish, back in the days when it was still Dave Silverman, insisted on paying me to come and do the thing, and said that they couldn't do much because he couldn't squeeze too much out of Dave Silverman's budget, but it was still $600 for a weekend, where the truth is that for a professional photographer doing something like the Carpenters Union thing out here, they'll get paid $3,000 or $4,000 for the weekend. A photographer will. That's industry standard rate, and I still don't charge anywhere near that, but that's also because I'm not trying to actually make a capitalist living. out of this. And I mean, it does help to be able to be paid for it because it does let you know that your work and your art is valued by the organizations to which it is going. And then the reverse side of that is recognizing your own value enough to say that I can charge this amount of money for it or whatever. And, you know, over the course of a weekend at a conference, I'll shoot maybe 3,000 or 4,000 pictures. So if I think about it that way, and then counting all of the time that goes into editing every single one of those pictures, and I mean, I'm not going to actually deliver 3,000 pictures. I might deliver anywhere between like 600 and 1,000. But even at that, you consider that per photo that I'm giving to them, that's still only like $3 a photo that I've charged.
Yeah, I mean, my like basic metric is, will this cover the cost of the materials? Because these are things I'm going to make anyway. Like, I struggled when I was younger because doing art market has been saturated and not very well paying since forever. And so knowing that I need food to live, I realized like this would have to be a side job for me. And that meant like I needed to be able to keep an interest in it. And that means making stuff I like. And then if I can recoup some of the cost of that, I'll do that.
I also don't really make money yet. I pay other people because small businesses are hell on earth. So I am working with an accountant. My business bank account has never been in the red, so I consider that a positive. And maybe by the end of this year, I will get a paycheck. Until then, I'm just freeloading on my husband, who I don't feel bad about.
I mean, there's also like more ways of creating value in the world than capitalism. Like, so it's not always just a matter of getting paid. As far as my day-to-day life went, I was a homemaker, and have been for a long time. I helped take care of my nephew and my nieces and my elderly aunt across the park. And that's, so you don't have to have jobs to create value in the world.
You can just have an aggressive volunteer job.
So how do you prevent burnout? I think that sometimes having to deal with the average, and you were saying, Amanda, about trying to make sure you don't lose the passion for it, having to put a price on it, having to sell it, having to advertise it. Is that a big portion of what makes it hard or gets you closer to burnout?
Yeah, that's the part I don't really like. If I had money, I would hire someone to deal with that for me. But I'm still trying to figure that out myself, honestly. I have definitely burned out a few times over the years. And part of my strategy is I don't typically take commissions from people because commissions are some of the hardest things to do in terms of like, if anyone's ever worked a customer service job, you understand how customers are. They know what they want, but they don't know how to explain it, and they also don't know what they want. And so working commissions is not one of the things I find are worth it. It's probably one of the most lucrative things, like if you do like internet-based art, it is incredibly lucrative, and you can you set your own prices, pay scale, you can work wherever, however you see fit, but it does mean you have to have decent people skills, which you don't learn that in art school. They don't tell you about it either. You have to figure it out, which is fun. So yeah, I mean, I go to therapy to figure that out, honestly, and that's not something everyone can do. But just finding your own like boundaries is really important.
I worked in the secular movement for 5 years. I worked in repro for 5 years. I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice on burnout. I've applied to 2 jobs this year, trying to get out of my small business. Not because I don't love it. I don't love. Do you know how many taxes there are? Like, there are so many different forms of taxes. And like every time I think I solve something, I get something else in the mail, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know what it means, and I have to figure out who to call to ask what it means, and then some people are helpful and some people are not. And I don't know what the state of Illinois wants from me at this point. I've given them enough money. I don't even live in Illinois.
You sell things in Illinois.
I sold things in Illinois for 1 weekend in April. I gave them money. I don't know what they want from me. So I am desperately working with this accountant to get me to a place that if I do want to leave, I have that option, because I just need the ability to leave to be fine. I hope and I think. We'll see, to be determined. I quit my job in repro at the end of 2021, and then for several months after that, I was just trying to navigate survival mode and sleeping a lot, which, to be fair, was January, February, March. I'm not getting out of my bed for anything. I don't have to be. And now I have gotten to a place that this year I have read more books than I have read in the last 10 years. So I have made progress, and I have recently started reading a book called Burnout that I don't think I would have gotten anything from when I was in survival mode. So I don't have advice on how to get to where I am, because quitting your job is not something that everybody can do. What was the question?
Has the sales and marketing side of this contributed to burnout?
Sales and marketing is fine. Taxes are bewildering. I'm pro-tax, to be clear. I just don't understand them.
No, I've worked jobs that were like, what's that called? Freelance? No, not
Yeah,
commission.
like a 1099.
Yeah, it's a 1099.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hell. I owed taxes, and I was like, going into it, I was like, I know I'll need to set money aside, but it turns out when you're not paying like the taxes that like a normal boss will take out for you,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I have so much money. I didn't have that much money.
No, see, that's income tax. That one I knew about, but there's also payroll tax.
Yep.
There's unemployment insurance tax.
Yep.
There's sales tax.
Yep.
For
Disability.
different states. There's too many taxes.
If you look at your paycheck, you'll see all the taxes you pay into, and those are the ones you have to know about.
And when you hire
And there
other
are
people,
secret
you have
ones.
to pay theirs too, which is great for them and makes my life very
Workers'
confusing.
comp. There's workers' comp laws. And I happen to be married to an accountant, so and have my own small business, so luckily he navigated that
They
for
get their
me.
stuff in house. That's nice.
Anyway, Josiah, do you have anything to say about burnout and how having to market your work has contributed to burnout in any way?
Yes. And I think specifically because marketing is very ends-oriented, is very goal-oriented. So if you fail to achieve your goal, then you feel like a failure, which leads to burnout, inevitably, each and every time. And that is one of the reasons why people that work in nonprofit or work in justice organizations or that work in social work get burned out so easy, is because it can feel like there's not a lot of wins. And part of that comes from our goals, ends-oriented mindsets. You get into that kind of work because you want to save the fucking world. Because you want to save people, you want to save individuals, and you will never, ever, ever, ever be able to save everyone. So you will always feel like you have failed. If you don't find a way around that, then you're going to feel like you failed. My way around that was learned it was taught to me. I don't know how well it was learned.
Someone tried.
Yes. A very wonderful boss that I had when I worked at a family homeless shelter in San Francisco called Raphael House, Carol Cole. And she said, you can't save everybody. If you do, you're going to feel like you failed. Your job when you are here, the way that you can actually measure your success is what kind of space you held open during that day. So, and this was particularly relevant because I worked in the children's evening program, and she was like, your job is not to save these kids. If you think your job is to save these kids, you will fail and you will burn out. But our job was to hold open a space into which these kids could come and work on themselves. Our job was just to hold open the space, to make the space available and hold it open as something safe for these kids to be able to step into. What the kids did, so it wasn't our job to save the kids, our job was just to hold open the space. And you can actually, in some fairly objective measures, judge your success at the end of every day. Like, today I did not hold open this space very well, I fucked up. Tomorrow, but here's what happened to make it fuck up tomorrow. I can help, I can try and fix that or whatever. But those are measures that don't make you feel like you failed someone else. It's just that something went wrong during that day, and like, so what? You can do it. You can do it again tomorrow, and it'll be okay. That's a very that lesson has some very context specificity, but I think it's something that you can carry into other kinds of spaces, even arts and marketing, and say, or at least what can I do to make my marketing not so ends oriented.
So, is there any part of this, I'm interested in, going into this, deciding it was going to be something you were going to charge for, something you were going to try to make a business out of, even if it wasn't going to be a full living. What surprised you the most? What were you not expecting?
Taxes.
Okay.
This is 90% of what I talk to my friends about. I'm a horrible person to be around these days.
Taxes do that to people.
I wasn't expecting people to actually buy my stuff.
So you went in with a low expectation and were pleasantly surprised.
Very low. I was also not expecting that I would be able to continue doing it. It was, I reopened my Etsy around the time that I was diagnosed with ADHD. So it was part of my longer self-treatment plan of if I can keep this business open and not just spend all of my extra income from my day job, and make a little, buy some avocado toast for myself. I would consider that a success on top of do I still want to keep doing this? It was another marker of success for me, and I did that.
Awesome.
I think the success and volume of success was definitely a surprise. If you had told me when I started this in May 2020 that by 2022, at the end of 2022, I would not only have a storefront but a staff person, I would have been what the fuck? Because I started in my kitchen and I posted on Facebook and I was like, hey, does anyone want to buy these for me? I just felt like trying this out, and it went well. So that's cool and weird.
Again, check out their TikTok. It's very cool. I think my biggest surprise was people hearing what I had to say in pictures without explaining it to them. And then when I did get around to explaining it to them, when I said, look, I'm really not interested in taking pictures of more white guys. Then Debbie was like, good. Debbie Cuttard. And have been going back to American Atheist ever since.
Has your own self-confidence ever been a barrier when it comes to charging for your work or marketing your work, advertising it?
Yes.
Absolutely. That's
huge.
That's why we have a panel, so that we have a diversity of opinions.
No.
Good.
I'm good at what I do, and I'm funny, and people like me.
I love it.
Okay, so
I am annoying, but I have all these other things going for me, so it's fine.
Nobody's perfect.
So I'll give a little background. I became a photographer so that I could hang around on the edges of spaces, and and that's so that I didn't have to, like, I couldn't just come to a conference and attend. That has actually taken a very long time for me to build up to the ability of just attending a conference. I needed a function. I needed to have something to do, and photography was perfect because I could be in that liminal space in which I am naturally, in almost all contexts, more comfortable. So that was not because I was a very self-confident person hanging out in liminal spaces. Hanging out in liminal spaces was because I was not very confident. So when it came to, so this is kind of, it was hard. And I worked for a while after I had become an atheist, taking church directory photos and then selling them for Life Touch, traveling around to little small towns and churches in Nebraska, going in and taking church directory photos. The irony was not lost on me. And then really having to psych myself up to do the sales part of the job, because I really was trying to support myself doing this at this time, and trying to tell myself that it's different than when I was trying to sell stuff before and failed so miserably, because I am selling my own artwork. I am selling my product and blah, 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 blah. And I got to where I was okay at it. I was never going to be stellar. But good Lord, it's still like, it's very hard.
I think that might be why I find this comparably easy. I went into this assuming that I would be able to hide behind a brand and it wouldn't be me selling myself. And then I found out people really like me, which was great, but also weird, but also like not the point of me starting my own business. It also will make it eventually very difficult to separate myself from the business. And a lot of weird implications of like parasocial relationships. Because like a lot of my customers, they are people I like a lot and are friends, and there are people I like and I like them at a distance. So figuring out boundaries in that way has been hard, even if like the confidence and pleasant surprise that people like me was not hard.
Yeah, I mean, so coming from like more of a fine arts background, I knew when I was learning art that I'm not going to be the next big name artist. And if I had tried pursuing like gallery art, you run into the same issues of what they were just mentioning about selling yourself as a brand, basically, and like, I can't do that. One of the like most appealing things about selling my art online is nobody has to know who I am, and I don't have to create a persona around my art. I can just present people with pictures and drawings and be like, you like it? Take it. So, yeah, nobody knows who I am. Don't learn who I am. But like, it's still like surprising to me when people compliment my art, because like, I have more of a behind the scene, like I have the technical knowledge to know like where I got sloppy, where I cut corners, where I was just like, this is good enough. But people on the other side they don't see that and have that like self-criticism, which works in my favor. But yeah, I just absolutely cannot like tie my own personal self to my art. It's too much of it makes me too vulnerable.
Have you ever like struggled to not broadcast the flaws that you can see, but you know that the average customer can't? I struggle. I'm a farmer, and that it should involve me selling cows, but I absolutely hate it, so I mostly just don't, which is not a good business decision, just so you know. But I have a problem where I will compulsively point out both the pros and the cons of the animal I'm trying to sell to help people get the right thing for them. But that's not how marketing seems to work for most people, and people take it kind of weird. So you can see flaws that the customer can't. How do you deal with that?
I mean, I don't do that publicly. I keep it to people like my friends, my partner, inside my head, and just try to just be very like bare bones when like I do, I guess, market myself and like present things online. It's usually more of like, here's art. You like art? Here's bird I drew. And try not to like get too in my head about it, basically.
I've never had to sell my art or my yarn in person. I feel like, if anything, I've tried to talk people out of buying yarn more than like they need, because no one needs it. I'm also not here to like shame people like, oh wow, you bought like whole sweater quantity. That's a lot of yarn. I'm just like, hell yeah, that's a paycheck. But
But I'm probably gonna have to pay taxes on it.
I'm not. I just need to know where it goes. I just need to know who to pay.
My bad.
No, there are so many tax entities. There's so many. And like, sure, there are like flawed skeins and there are colors that I don't like. But I don't just make yarn for myself. I have, like, the way we work at my shop is we have a theme for a collection and we have, like, inspiration in mind for, like, a specific colorway. And, like, sometimes that yarn's not my vibe. And that's fine because it fits the vibe of what we're going for. And so, like, just because it's flawed or, like, not my thing does not mean that it's not somebody's whole thing. So... And it gets real weird when I have like colors that sell really well online but not in person, or like sell really well in person but not online. And then like getting wholesale, like doing wholesale orders is also really weird because there's a couple colors that like I could not sell and yarn store owners have bought so much of. And I don't understand the disconnect because like, is it selling for you? Because it did not sell for me. Your audience is different than you as a person sometimes, and that's weird but also helpful.
Yeah, I have struggled very, very much with imposter syndrome because I'm a self-taught photographer. I didn't go to school for it. I just started fucking around with cameras, and I knew that I had a talent for taking pictures, but I also know that there are plenty of other photographers, especially even photographers in movement, secularism, atheism, and all that kind of stuff, who have a lot more technical expertise than I do. But I also do have enough self-confidence to go, no, I'm really fucking good at what I do. like I can admit that, to others and to myself. But there is a sense where like I can also be free about talking about my weaknesses as a photographer, like some of the technical things, like, and I mean, 'cause just in personal conversations with people, I have talked about like okay, as a former alcoholic, or no, still an alcoholic really, but. Like my hands are not actually very steady. I mean, I guess they're not doing too bad. But I have to compensate for that with shutter speed, and that by making the camera a little bit faster. But that also means that trying to compensate by making a slightly faster shutter speed in low light means that I am not taking in as much light. It means I have to do more in post or whatever, like, yeah. I don't know what all that leads to, but yes.
That's also interesting because like I work with a team. It's not just me dyeing yarn at this point. So there are yarns that like I hate dyeing. I do not want to dye them. I don't do a good job. I do not enjoy the process, but Ashley does, and that's great. And sometimes she designs a colorway, but I'm the one who dyes it because I'm better at dyeing it. So it helps when I have not just me to rely on.
Awesome. Some of you have already shared this, but as a person who has definitely done some things and then failed at them, and then it hit me really hard, I really like if people can share something they tried and were like, nope, this did not work, and you definitely quit doing that thing. And you might have already told us an example, but you can rehash it, or you can come up with a new thing that you've tried. But I want to hear, what did you quit doing because it didn't work?
Like as a photographer, nature photography and pets and flowers and birds and all that kind of stuff. I like the idea of it a lot more, but I could not sustain enough interest to it. So I did never, after the first few times of trying it, I was like, whatever. So I just stopped doing that for a photography. As a form of other stuff that I have maybe tried and then just given up. And never say never, I guess. But, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer. And I have, when I got out of the Army and was working as a civilian contractor at an Air Force base, I started to write a book, and I got like 70,000 pages into it. But or not pages, words. Not 70,000 pages. It was like one word a page. But yeah, I put it down because it was not going well, really, and it was never going to turn into what I wanted it to turn into. It was an interesting experiment. It did help me figure out some stuff about myself. But other than that, no.
I did self-striping yarn, and that's more effort than it's worth to me. And I also broke my 10-foot Swift, so that makes it harder to do. That's just getting into like niche hardware, though. And then I don't dye cellulose fibers because it's a totally different process than dyeing protein fibers, and it's effort and water and totally new inventory and dyes, and like I keep getting asked and my answer is still no, I'm not gonna do it. So
Probably also different taxes somehow.
probably also yeah. It turns out I'm also not good at doing taxes. So yeah.
So you just quit paying those.
Catch me in the clink for tax evasion.
I would never do such a thing myself.
Taxes? Or tax evasion?
I would never evade any taxes ever. Just to be clear.
No one on this stage has, to their knowledge, committed tax fraud. Yet.
Good.
No, I am. So, my business was named something else entirely, and then in a year and change, actually basically a year after I started, I decided I wanted to go by a different name. And it turns out that changing your business name is actually very difficult, so I currently go by a DBA. So I have to, in order to actually be like the name that I want my business to be, I have to close my business entirely and then reopen it. And I also want to do so under like a different tax structure, and that's really difficult. And I'm gonna pay somebody to do that. I ain't doing that. So that is also a thing that I'm not even gonna try. I know I'm gonna fail.
I mean, first thing I thought of was socks, because I do, like, as a hobby, I crochet and knit a little bit, and I got really invested in the idea of making my own socks because socks are great.
Socks are great.
And then it's complicated. So I was just like, no, it's fine. I don't need socks. And then I've also tried spinning my own yarn with a drop spindle.
I have some socks I'm working on with hand-spun yarn in my bag, but my yarn is caught in the zipper.
I didn't do it.
I was gonna show you.
Oh no.
All right,
It sounds
so-
really cool. But yeah, no, I did it once, and it was kind of fun. Like doing the spinny thing is fun, but I can just do that without work. So I was like, it's not for me.
Awesome. Well, I'm actually going to open it up now to audience questions. I'm just going to pull this off and come down in. I don't know if that will work or if I'll make anything angry, but for anyone that has questions, it can be for the whole panel or it can be for a specific person on the panel. And that will also give Kelly some time to sort out their yarn situation, maybe. Okay, raise your hand if you have a question. Okay, so you'll probably have to come up here, I think, to use the microphone, or you can just say your question and I'll repeat it. But because this is going out to more than just those in the room tonight, I do want to get it on the mic. Anyone? Awesome. You have to come close to the stage so you don't make this.
Closer. So I don't know if any of you were late bloomers when it came to creative expression or artistic expression. If you are, could I get some pointers? Not me, a friend, clearly. And even if you weren't, like, if there was anything that you ever struggled with as far as expression that you were able to overcome that frustration, how did you do it?
I can start. I wasn't a late bloomer in terms of like drawing. I was interested in drawing at a very young age. And I've always been pretty confident in my drawing abilities. But yes. It's still, well, just even like, as Josiah was saying earlier about how like a lot of things are like end goal oriented, there is a lot of focus in producing a drawing or producing a finished something. And that was a huge barrier to me in terms of like getting back and like restarting my Etsy, is like I do have to finish making things to post them. And that gets in your head, and you, especially if you're something of a perfectionist about things, you can get caught up in like making things exactly how you want to make them, and you're never going to be able to do that unless you spend the time to make the things. It's the Adventure timeline of the first step thingy, it's not sucking, is sort of sucking. You know the line. It's a meme. But the first step in like being sort of good at something is, yeah, like I'm doing right now with remembering things. So one thing that's helped me is instead of the goal being like finish this thing, the goal is enjoy what I'm doing, but like also like do things that I enjoy doing, and don't worry so much about like selling the thing. And I was actually I did a workshop this morning. Yes, this morning that was about crochet, and that one is like, that's a thing I do for like meditation sort of purposes, and they are demonstrating why I like it. It keeps your hands busy, you do the thing, and at the end, that's knitting, not crochet. But at the end, like, you have a tangible thing. It's hey, I did it. But it's like, yeah, it's something where like, I was telling like the people that were like, regardless of like what shape you produce at the end, like, you have so much yarn, once you reach the end of the yarn, you have finished the thing. And that feels really good, just to finish something. That's often like the worst thing about doing like creative stuff, is like knowing. Well, yeah, no, starting stuff is great. Starting stuff is great. But like knowing when to finish is like So yeah, just like letting yourself just like be messy and like enjoy like figuring out like do I like pencils? Do I like the textures they make on the paper? Do I like colors? Make it about like just having something at the end where you're like, I did that. And you can like, once you're past getting stuff down on paper or like starting a crochet, like it just becomes about like, what parts of this do I like? And leaning into that. Like, I've also given advice to my partner about like, they're really good at coloring because they really like the colors and they take the time to actually care about and like sort of do color theory, but like more instinctually. So like, I just told them like, just do things that have cool colors, like, and they found a bunch of stuff they're interested in. I forgot where I was going.
Color theory is only cool if you can fuck with it, though. Like,
Do we have the game Hues and Cues for later? Because I want to play that. Not related to anything other than colors. Sorry. I saw it at Walmart earlier, and I was like, I want to buy this game, but what if they have it later? So I'm not going to buy it in case they have it. So maybe I was wrong. Anyway. Insight to my brain. I struggled a lot creatively wanting to be a real artist for a long time. You're open to interpretation of what that means. Like I see this in my son actually too. He's going to be 6 this month, and he is so frustrated when he is not really good at drawing because drawing is something that he really enjoys. And it seems like something that should be easy. Like, I have a picture in my brain. I should be able to just draw the picture in my brain. And then the picture isn't what my brain wanted it to be. And now I'm mad. And that sucks. So I struggled for a long time wanting to be a real artist. And, like, I'm pretty decent at watercolor. Like, I can put water and paint on a paper, and it looks like I want it to look because it's not that difficult technically. But it's not like a medium that I like feel like an artist in. I feel like I am, diamond painting or coloring lines in. I'm just doing the thing I am being told to do, and it turns out like it's supposed to. But I don't feel anything. I don't feel like I have accomplished anything other than just having a nice time, which is great. That is a good outcome. It is okay to have a hobby. I feel like an artist in knitting and crochet and yarn because what the fuck else are you gonna call me? The funny thing about that is I only really got into that because I wasn't gonna let the string and the stick beat me. I learned out of spite. I did not do it because it was a soothing hobby to me. It was, I'm smarter than this stick is, damn it. And that's what I try to tell my son when he's getting frustrated with drawing. It's like, you're not going to be good at it the first time. I know it seems easy. So does string and yarn, and yet it took me 10 years to learn how to knit. Things seem like they should be easy, and then you're like, wait, no. And then you have done it for 10 years, and it's like second nature, so.
okay, so in terms of photography, yes, I was a very late bloomer. I didn't really take it up until I was 34, 5, around there. I did grow up artistic, though, and being very interested in art and especially drawing, sketching, painting. And that kind of runs in my family. Both of my parents are enormously talented artists in their own right. So whether that's, genetics or just the environment I was raised in, like arts were a part of our life in some form or another. And I had picked up a camera before, early in my marriage when we were working at that homeless shelter in San Francisco, actually. So I knew that I kind of had an eye for it. But then my ex-wife and I got divorced, and she didn't want to give up the camera. So eventually, when I was one of the first times I was trying to get sober, I was like, I need something to distract myself so I don't drink. I don't recommend becoming an alcoholic as a way to break into your chosen art.
Cocaine, however.
It's a really fucking self-destructive method of discovering your art.
I would say the 1800s disagree with you.
But yeah, so one of the times, then I picked up a camera and started trying to get serious about it and was just taking pictures of objects and different things like that and learning how to use a digital camera then. So yeah, it was late in life. But that doesn't answer your question about like whether I have any advice for it or not. Because I don't know.
Your advice is don't develop a drinking problem.
Don't develop a drinking problem. Yes. Like, there is no point, it's
Everybody has problems.
no, that's true, yes. Because, it didn't actually stop me from drinking. That wasn't the magic pill, it turned out. But it did help. Like, it helped to have another direction to put creative energy into. And I don't know that it matters, particularly what it is. You can try drawing, sketching, and whatever. And again, I think, like they were saying, some of that is just, it's being process-oriented and enjoying the texture of it and enjoying, and knowing that no matter what art you pick up, there's a grind to it. It's not all, magic flights of fancy and connecting with the universe. There's a grind to any art. There is a Sisyphean aspect to every art, where you constantly feel like you're just pushing a boulder up the hill. But then, like Camus, you have to imagine Sisyphus happy.
I had a cow named Camus once.
You did what?
I had a cow named Camus once, like Camus.
See, this is a particular thing that I've struggled with. Not cows. I have not struggled with cows. But it's Camus, yeah.
Yeah, Camus, M-O-O, Camus.
I love it. So I reference Camus because that's Dr. Anthony Penn's favorite dude. He loves Camus.
Yeah, yeah. Camus is a philosopher for anyone who. I'm a farmer with a philosophy degree. It's weird. Don't worry about it.
So you name your cows puns. Did you ever have a pun for Derrida? A cow
no,
named pun?
So
that would be hard. Derrida.
That'll be next. Thank you. It's going on the list.
Wow.
All right. Do we have any other audience questions? Or you can just say it and I'll repeat it if you don't want to get up.
I have a theory that the high percentage of great artists are not neurodivergent. And I wanted to validate my theory. Please tell me that's correct.
Amy would like to know if you feel a high percentage of artists are neurodivergent.
I feel like there's probably been studies on this, and I don't know that we are a fair sample. What do they call that? Biased sampling? Something? Is that the term?
What is an artist? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we'd have to define our terms first, and it's a little late in the evening to try to define artists, maybe.
But it's something a group of neurodivergent people.
Yeah. And then we have to define neurodivergent as well.
We do. And
Yeah.
is neurospicy also
Yeah.
And also, let's not
neurodivergent, or is
forget
that?
what is
Because I
art.
am probably not diagnosable, but I guarantee you I have tendencies.
I would be more surprised to find a neurotypical crafter than all the knitting and crochet people who walk into my shop are fucking weird.
I'd just like to say it's okay to be neurotypical. It's technically okay to be neurotypical.
Oh. You will find neurotypical people in art school, and I don't recommend it.
Do you have a question? Or?
I had a follow-up, which is being
Oh, it's been a barrier.
It's not a superpower. Sometimes it is absolutely, my ADHD makes it incredibly hard. You see me take all these pictures. Be patient. I'm kidding. So it's not a superpower, and I do worry about that sometimes, that it may prevent people from getting help if they feel like their neurodivergence is somehow the key to their art. And that's that word. I mean, I have kids who are artists too, and so I keep an eye out for that.
I think, at least specifically in my field, it is more of a coping mechanism than it would be something that would like prevent somebody from seeking a diagnosis or help. Just the repetitive motions and the clicky sounds and the textures. So I definitely think it is more of a coping mechanism, at least in my field specifically. I have a hard time thinking of like an artist strung out because of yarn, but whoops. The night's young. So I think that's definitely a risk, assuming that you have a superpower because of how your brain works and it's the key to your art. But I think the other side of that coin is it is very much a coping mechanism.
Yeah, I absolutely hate the trope of like, the more like common trope of this is the like suffering artist or the like depressed artist of, well, that's Tax's fault. But
The
like,
entire concept of redemptive suffering can just fuck off and die.
yeah, because like, literally, my depression makes me incapable of making art. My ADHD also makes me incapable of doing the art that makes me feel good enough to do the things I like. So I have hobbies to like cope with things, like crocheting and knitting are like the things I do that like are stimmy and like soothe me, but like no, art is a thing that I'm passionate, like drawing is a thing I'm passionate about, and it definitely like impacts the art I make, but it's not like necessarily in a good way, and I absolutely hate that you just don't. It's
In other words, I think Lou makes a very good point. Like, it is dangerous to treat neurodiversity like a magic power.
Do we have one more question? Nope. All right, so then to wrap up, I would just like to know where can we find you if we would like to purchase your art or hire you or that type of thing?
I already told you can't. I have a vendor table set up over there in the vendor spot. I'll be there tomorrow, probably at some point. And online, but I forget where.
Somewhere on Etsy.
Presumably.
Okay. Okay. Go to the table and get a card if you want to find out.
I have business cards with these things on them.
Okay. Thank you.
There we go.
I'm pretty sure I left my business cards in the car, so I will have to go get them. I did not choose to have a vendor table because I wanted a break from work. But I am at Dye Mad Yarns, D-Y-E, as in dying yarn, Dye Mad Yarns. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and then I am also on TikTok as at Dye Mad About It, because that's what my Dye Mad shirt says. I'm very online. And also just dyemadyarns.com.
I'm less consistently online these days, but still fairly pretty online. The most reliable place to find me is probably Facebook. And then just look for Josiah Mannion. There's not a ton of Josiah Mannions on Facebook.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone else. Have a great evening. I think the next Skepticon event is trivia at 9 p.m. Is that going to be in this room, or do you know, Eli, where? Okay. Awesome. So see you all back here at 9. Thank you.